Hey, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies while we enjoy our coffee. And today, what we're going to be talking a little bit about the Payroll Protection Program, or better known as PPP. We've got a CPA with us, and we're going to do our best to not talk all about accounting, but we want to talk about the PPP and how it will impact your business. If you've already received some of the PPP funds, what you need to be planning for and preparing for, and also things that you can do as a business to be mindful and prepare for this not to happen for you in the future. That's going to be our conversation with Jonathan Dean today from Parsons CPA, and we'll be chatting with him right after this.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. Time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get started.
All right.
Jonathan, thank you for being here today.
You got it.
Glad that you could take time out of your schedule to join us. We're going to be talking a little bit about PPP, a little bit about accounting, I guess, as a whole. And I was trying to think through the process of setting the conversation up, because I think PPP right now, payroll protection, and kind of everything that's happening with the economy right now is a very interesting conversation, and how it relates to business. And so you're uniquely connected with that. And we'll talk more about that in just a few moments. But before, we have to do rapid fire. 5 randomly selected questions just to get under your skin with unknown point values.
Got it.
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. What new ideas are giving you energy lately?
Minecraft.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
So you play Minecraft?
Not by choice. I got a 10-year-old, and he's all into it right now. So I'm learning how to do it on my phone, and building stuff. That's pretty interesting, actually.
That was my next question. Do you do it on your phone, or are you on the computer?
He's got his iPad. I got the phone, and you can actually team up and join each other in the world. So it's a pretty neat way, actually, for him to play with his buddies, because he can't see them.
Yeah.
But, it gives us something to do. So, yeah.
It's incredible. My daughter is very much into Minecraft, and she loves playing it. And it's been intriguing to watch. It's something we have to keep track of, because you can turn into hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
But she learns a lot through the process. Right.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of back-end coding and understanding how to navigate things. So, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, what life lessons did you learn the hard way?
Ooh, let's go with driving.
Driving?
Yeah. I remember turning 16. I was with my mom. She was in the passenger seat, coming for baseball practice. And for some reason, I decided to leave the glove on the roof.
Oh.
It fell off, so I turned around, to look at it instead of keeping driving.
While you were driving?
Yep. Oops.
Oh.
And went up on the sidewalk.
Oh.
Went up on the sidewalk. So, that was a hard lesson to learn, but.
Yeah, that'd be a pickle.
Yeah. Didn't hit anything, but it was still a little.
Scare the mess out of you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Keep your eyes on the road. You turn where your head turns.
Yep.
Yeah, learn that myself. All right, number 3. What are you an expert at?
Oh, expert. I've learned a lot of skills over the last 3 months.
Okay.
So I'm kind of a jack of all trades.
All right.
Good example. I took apart my dishwasher the other day, replaced
Very cool.
the hose, and there I go. And I cut my son's hair. So I'm apparently
So a dishwasher repairman
and a hairstylist.
And a
all
hairstylist.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Those are 2 good things to be experts at.
Yeah.
In case we need any of those resources around here.
Okay.
Number 4, last place that you'd be caught dead.
Oh, man. Last place I'd be caught dead. Probably at a Duke game in a Duke uniform.
Oh.
Yeah. One of those.
That rough.
Yeah. Yeah. So big Tar Heel guy. So that's the last place I would ever be caught dead.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right. Number 5, last question. Which celebrity would you pick to exchange lives with?
Wow. Got to go with the Matrix, man. Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
I'm a 90s guy coming up through the, millennium, and love the Matrix movies, and he's just a chill guy.
Yeah.
So going to go with old Keanu.
Pretty chill guy. Very cool. All right. So we'll give you a score of 812. So congratulations.
Yes. What do I get?
What's the prize?
Yeah.
It's you find out at the end.
Okay, got it.
It's a coffee cup. Actually, it's a coffee cup. Sorry, I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Oh.
All right, very cool. Thank you for playing along in the game. So, topic of conversation today, I was thinking about it. I was like, accounting, man, that's going to be a riveting conversation. I
know, right?
But I think there's a lot more to it. So I've got a lot of questions that I've wondered over the years, and also specifically regarding to where everybody is right now, because when the economy changes, when things change, and the way it happened with COVID-19 recently, there was a lot of questions and a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusing information, and it was changing rapidly. So,
Still is.
So I'm interested to kind of find out more about that as well. So diving into it, just a little bit of context. CPA, you work with a firm and you support businesses of all sizes. Give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah. So we support, small businesses, usually maybe 1 to 5 owners. So anywhere from 10 to 500 employees. Revenues probably from 2 million all the way up to 300 million. So there's the wide range. There's a bunch of outliers there.
Okay.
But we do usually we also support the owners of the businesses, and we do a lot of consulting, a lot of tax planning. So we're out in their office a lot of kind of fractional CFO work type too. So it's not just doing tax returns, or it's not just doing the accounting or the bookkeeping. So there's a lot of good work with the people. So
would you consider it to be more of just a financial advisor for small business, less of just CPA work?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we're considered the most trusted advisor, right? Just because we know how a lot of things behind the scenes works. Not only just from there's a lot of tax tricks. But also just financing. When you need a good banker, we got connections there. So there's a lot of networking that goes on. So we add a lot of value there. And then what I've seen most is most business owners are they're the revenue drivers, right? So they don't necessarily have time to do kind of the back office stuff. Yeah. So we really kind of keep them focused on the revenue. We keep them straight on the taxes and growth, and really, we want to keep as much money in their pockets as possible.
Yeah, keep that available to help grow the business. And that's awesome. Yep. So, what role specifically does a CPA play in a business outside of kind of the things you were just describing? What does that look like to have? I've had a lot of conversations with business owners, and I've got to talk to my accountant, or I've got to talk to my CPA, or whatever. Whatever it's kind of just a person that they need, like you said, when it comes to taxes or something like that.
Right.
What real role can they play to help a business be more successful?
I mean, we almost act as a partner, kind of a non-equity partner in the business, if you will. So. We're always available for, either a text, phone call, late night, weekend, whatever it may be, just because, we know what it's like to be there, especially in times like this. Even if it's just a random call or email, it's nice for business owners to have that resource to go to. Yeah. So that's where a CPA really comes in handy. To where, you want to run a situation by or a possible, another business venture or, real estate purchase, whatever it is, we've probably experienced it before. So, we're always that kind of go-to text or phone call, when they need it.
That was interesting. A couple, I don't even remember how long ago it was. It was probably within the last 2 years. I remember we had a conversation because we were working on trying to figure out what we were going to do for a couple of areas of our business. We were launching into some app development, looking at some digital content type stuff. And I remember kind of bringing you in, and we were just asking a lot of questions, and you were asking us a lot of questions that made us think of, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board and kind of retool some of this.
Right.
And so I think that was an interesting component that I never really would have associated with a financial advisor or with a CPA firm,
right?
But it really helped us to say, you asked a lot of questions and said, okay, so how much capital is this going to take to launch this? How is this going to look in 2 years, 5 years, whatever? And it was an interesting way to break it down outside of just the vision for this is what we want to accomplish.
Right.
It really came back into the tactical. This is what you need to be able to accomplish it.
Right, yeah. And you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So we've always that's why we like to meet with clients face to face, because usually during a conversation, there's things that come up that you're like, well, I was thinking about this. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Good example. Even today, we got a new client out in California thinking about moving to North or South Carolina.
Okay.
And they had no idea that there's all these tax credits and they could save a ton of money, and which would go to finance the building purchase and the build out. So, and they had no idea.
Yeah, because that's just some advice that you guys know.
Yep.
So does every business need a CPA?
I would say yes.
Okay.
But I think the best answer is that I usually give is it depends, right? Depends on, a lot of factors. So, you have a solo owner who just does consulting. They probably can do that themselves, right? I think when it comes to hiring a CPA, everybody thinks about the cost, but what they don't think about is the investment. So when you see that P&L line, accounting services, and it's $10,000, $20,000, you're like, oh man, we could easily cut some expenses here.
Yeah.
But I think it more of as an asset and an investment in your company. Just because you can get away with not having a CPA all day. Yeah. I did it. I helped my wife. She started a company. Actually, that's the reason I got in the business in the first place.
Okay.
Believe it or not. I just wanted to help her do the books, do the taxes, and we're done, right?
Yeah. And
we could do it in-house. It's fine. But doing it that way, you do miss out on some stuff.
Sure.
So while you don't have to have one, it's always a good idea to have one if you can afford it.
Yeah, I like your cost versus investment analysis. That's I didn't realize you were in sales.
Yeah. There we go.
I'm just speaking with you.
Yeah.
All right. So, question for you: what should you look for in a good CPA? So I'm a business owner. I'm navigating this. I'm like, one, the person that I'm dealing with right now, I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
So that's question number one. But number two, I'm looking for someone new, or maybe I'm starting a business.
Yep.
What do I need to look for? What are the things that the questions that I need to ask?
Yeah. First of all, they got to have a sweet beard. You can't have a CPA without an awesome beard.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Well, it's kind of like a security provider. You wouldn't want to have a security company that didn't.
Right.
Didn't have a beard.
No.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, you want to interview CPAs.
Okay.
Because there is. Just because you have the title doesn't mean you know what you're doing. So if you're thinking about getting a CPA, always pick 3. Get referrals and interview them all before you make a decision. You want to make sure they have good support. A lot of the time, the solo CPAs, they'll go on vacation and you need something, and they're gone, or they don't answer their emails. So communication is always a big point.
Okay.
So you want to make sure they have the support behind them, just because they're not going to be available all the time.
Yeah.
You want to make sure they have the technology. So, you don't want a CPA that's going to match your style, right? So if you like having paper tax returns and you interview a CPA and they're all in the cloud and do everything digital, maybe that's one you don't want to go with. So I think you have to get one that matches you. I think it's probably the best advice. Yeah.
Can you copy this key? That's a question we get asked about 3,422 times a year. And how can you actually be sure that the person who asked that question is supposed to get a copy of that key? Well, we think you should always know who can copy your keys to your business and your home, because it could be your neighbor, an old employee, a contractor, or even worse, your mother-in-law. At Loc-Doc Security, we believe in protected key systems, so you always know who has a copy of your key. To find out more, visit locdoc.net or stop by our Charlotte location. Loc-Doc Security, helping you protect your people and your property. Somebody that matches and compliments you.
Yep.
That's it. Is there any questions that when you guys have been interviewed from a company that you're like, oh, that's an interesting question. I haven't had that before. That has really kind of opened up that dialogue.
I can't really think of anything specific. But when we have prospective clients, they really talk about their problems more than anything and what issues they have. We personally have a good system set up to properly service clients. It's structured, so you definitely want structure in your CPA.
So basically, somebody that when you interview them, maybe they bring you a plan, or they can show you all of that information versus you haven't even asked for it all.
Right. Right.
Very cool.
Yep.
So the flip side of that, from your perspective, what makes a good client for a CPA? Let's talk about some good and bad. You've got people that are just annoying and obnoxious,
right? And
you don't have to name them, but and then people that you would say, man, this is one of our great clients because they do A, B, or C.
I think our best clients are the ones, and this is going to sound bad, but they listen to the advice that's given. So if I say, hey, this is how you should do it, buy this building, let's do this, and you'll see these results. Like I can literally predict the future. But if they're like, no, or they take half the advice and do it the wrong way. So the worst thing you can do is not ask your CPA if you're doing something, because once it's done, it's done. So kind of getting in front of projects, things like that. But I think if you're going to hire a CPA and you're going to pay them, at least follow the advice that's given.
If you're going to hire them and pay them, then actually have a conversation and heed the advice.
Yeah, but most important thing is communication. I mean, good communication. So having multiple conversations, having multiple input, not making any drastic decisions is probably the best advice. So.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right, I want to shift over to the PPP, Payroll Protection, and we could probably even talk about the idle loan if we have time. But
it's important. Yeah.
The PPP is been very interesting, and there's been a lot of debate back and forth on is it good, is it bad, should you get it, should you not get it, and so I wanted to kind of, I guess, talk through that, and I guess even number one as we start out the conversation is the onset of it was just. Chaos.
That was a disaster. Yeah.
Why is that?
It was too fast. I mean, they passed a law, and it wasn't. Yeah, it might have been properly reviewed, but it went out so fast. I think it passed on a Friday, and it was implemented the next Friday. So even the banks were like, "Guys, we haven't even read it, much less implemented technology to help people out." So, so it was really fast. The rules did change quite a bit, especially at the beginning, whether what qualified, what didn't qualify. A lot of the banks like Wells Fargo, I don't mean to throw them under the bus, but they had a disaster. They started it on the Friday. They said they were done on Sunday. So by the time people were ready to apply on Monday, they were like, "Nope, sorry guys, we shut it down." So, I mean, it was terrible for small businesses who were panicking at the time. So
I talked to a lot of people about it, and they all there was only one person that I talked to of very, very many that probably I would say 20 or 30 businesses that applied for it. There was only one that said that they had no issues with it whatsoever, that they were able to process it through very quickly. Everybody else took all this time to prepare, and then everything they prepared for it was almost useless. And then when they went to submit it, it was just chaos and fail and crashing and all kinds of unknown errors. So just mostly because it was so fast. I mean, it was a quick reaction, obviously, which I think take that as maybe a positive, but because it was so fast, like when has the government released a program that was just perfect, but to shorten it into like a 3-week time period is just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, this has never happened, right? I mean, anytime the IRS says forgivable loan, not taxable, people are going to fly to it. And honestly, the companies that had the structure in place to get it done quickly, kind of quote unquote won.
Yeah.
And some of the clients who weren't quite as fast, missed out on that first batch, but were able to get it on the second batch, and it hasn't run out. So, there's still time to get it for those who haven't. But yeah, I mean, some of the smaller banks were actually able to move quicker, just because they didn't have quite the red tape. Yeah. So, you're talking about, like Paragon, small regional banks were able to just get it done.
Yeah, that was the kind of the feedback that I got from a lot of people is if you were dealing with a smaller like community or local regional bank, then you had a lot better process or success with it versus any larger banks.
Yeah, you're dealing with a human that you can email stuff to instead of going to some website and posting stuff thinking somebody's working on it.
Yeah, which I think is an interesting side note when you're dealing with a client, maybe advising them on who should I bank with,
right?
Outside of even just this situation, what are some of the pieces of advice that you look for?
Yeah, well, you want the banker first, not necessarily the bank.
Okay,
the bank's important because some banks have a little bit better technology. But having that relationship banker who, again, you can call, text, weekends, things like that, that's going to really help with the growth of your company. That's probably the besides a lawyer, probably the third most important thing you can have on your team.
Who's the second?
Well, CPA is first, of course, right? Okay. So you got the CPA, the lawyer, the banker. That's going to get you on the right foot.
There you go.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Coffee Break Podcast. If this information has been helpful to you or you just really kind of like our theme song, can you help us out by rating us on whatever app you're using? And if you get really fancy, how about sharing a screenshot on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn? Okay, enough of all this. Let's get back to the conversation.
So with the PPP, what have you seen? Maybe those that have applied for it and gotten it. I guess I want to go on to that assumption.
Yeah.
I know you said that there's still obviously some money there if somebody was looking to go get it.
Yep.
But those that have applied and received it, what are the best practices that they need to be planning for right now? What are the things that they need to be looking at if they are going after the forgiveness? Which why would you not? But
I think you said it. Planning is everything. So what we did from pretty much the day, we've been walking all of our clients through the whole application, and those that we didn't actually do the application package for, at some point in time, we had a conversation about and said, hey, you know what? When the money hits the bank the first day, you want to track it. So go ahead and plan out all your payrolls, all your costs. You want to make sure that you're tracking your weekly payrolls, because honestly, when this thing first came out, you only had 8 weeks to use the money, and people were like, I can't use all this money in 8 weeks. I'm going to have to pay it back. So we can get into that later, but there's a lot of planning involved.
Well, I want to ask a side question on that, because I've heard a lot of people say that, and I guess I'm confused. I'll walk you through my reason that I'm confused about it.
Yeah.
I understood that the way that you applied for it was based off of the calculation, so it should be very close to what you...
Right.
So why are people saying that, how am I supposed to spend it in this amount of time?
Yeah. Well, a couple different reasons. First is that, they gave you 10 weeks worth of money, and you have to use it in 8 weeks. First, initially. That did change. But secondly, your payroll may not be as much now because you've cut back employees or wages, things like that. So, now people are in kind of savings mode. They're not in, let's go out and give everybody a bonus. They want to protect that cash.
Yeah.
So I think they're really careful with it.
Well, it is also interesting too, because, and again, I'm going to play ignorant in a lot of these things, mostly because I am, but if you were tracking it, as you said, and you were planning for it, and you put it, and you knew where it was, then if you did not use it all and you did have to pay it back, it is right there to pay it back.
Right. Yeah. Just as long as you're not going out and spending it on whatever vacations, things like that. I don't think people would do that, but you never know.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is planning.
Just plotting it out and having an actual game plan for it.
Yeah, and actually we distributed, we actually created a spreadsheet that you plan your expenses and then you put them in. And, we, of course, CPAs, they love spreadsheets. I dream in spreadsheets, so we like everything planned out. And
so
that's the way to do it.
Side note, Excel, Google Sheets, what is your favorite?
I go Excel.
Excel.
Yeah.
Why?
I think that's how, I grew up.
Have you ever used Google Sheets?
No, I'm a CPA, man. Once I stick to something that I like.
Oh man, you're gonna have to use Google Sheets.
Okay,
you're gonna have to try it.
I'm open to anything.
And then come back and give us a review.
Okay, yeah.
Also numbers on Mac, but I wouldn't mess with that.
Yeah.
All right. Getting back on track. So if you offered a spreadsheet to say, hey, here, put this information in here, track it this way, that way, at least you know where everything is and you have a good record for it. So you don't have to have as much chaos or worry around it.
Right. Yeah. So, and even from the start, I was like, just make a PDF file, pop all your weekly payroll reports in there. If you got leases, utilities, things like that, just start making a file. So that file matches the spreadsheets, send it off to the banker with the application.
Gotcha.
And they're done, so it's banker proof. Nothing against bankers.
Yeah. So, and maybe this is a loaded question just from a sense that hopefully the businesses that you are supporting were already orderly and planned well, but is this something that you had some people that were better at it than others, or that their business was structured better than others?
Not necessarily. I think it really depended on the type of person. Some people were like, I'm not touching this, you do it.
I got
Some were like, I got this, I'll call you if needed.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it really depended on the person.
Okay, very cool. All right, let's move on. Originally, I think we kind of talked about it. Why did a lot of businesses miss out on the original setup? And that was mostly because they just weren't structured well enough to be able to apply for it quickly enough. Is that what you're thinking?
Possibly. I mean, I think it was speed, a lot of it. So those who had, their bank accounts reconciled within the 10th day of the following month, were more likely than not to be organized from the get-go and be able to produce the documents to apply for the loan.
All right. So my takeaway so far is on PPP, as long as you are tracking it well, you know exactly what you received and how you're spending it, then you're most likely set up for success. And you said that they've changed some of the regulations. So it was 8 weeks, but now it's what?
24. Yeah. 24. So this past Friday, they came out with a new law. So they revamped it to be a lot more user friendly. So they went from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. They went from 75% on payroll costs down to 60% on payroll costs. So you can use it on the other things like rent, utilities, things like that. If you do end up owing money, it went from a 2-year loan to a 5-year loan.
Okay.
And then on even more important, so on June 30th, you had to bring back your full workforce. So they extended that date to 12/31. So so they made it pretty tough for people
to not be able to.
Right, yeah.
What do you think the application process or the actual forgiveness process is going to look like?
So the application is out, even though they got to redo the application, right? Okay. So you're going to have to. It's going to go through the bank. It's not going to go to the SBA. So there'll be an application, little cover page right on top. And then all the detail behind it. You have 60 days, last time I checked, to apply for forgiveness. So just make sure you're organized kind of leading up to that. 60
days from when?
From the end of they call it the covered period, which used to be 8 weeks. Now it's 24. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. So now it would be 24 weeks from the time that you received it to the time that 24-week period, then you have 60 days to apply after that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So everything's going to go straight to the banker. I'm sure there'll be some questions and answers with the banker back and forth. A little unclear, honestly, on what you get. I don't know if you get some type of certificate or, a party or, whatever. So I don't know at this point. A lot of it's still unclear even for us. So who knows?
Well, I think it's a party would definitely be in line.
Be called for.
For anybody that's doing that.
Yeah.
Major question on this, and this has been, I think, probably on my mind more than anything, is with what happened right now with COVID-19 and how essentially the government just kind of came in and shut down the economy for all intents and purposes.
Right.
It just took away your ability to actually generate revenue. Like it just stopped. So as a business, what are your thoughts or your suggestions or your advice to be thinking of moving forward if something, as you said earlier, and as everyone has talked about, this is unprecedented to this point. Like this is not something that's really happened before, but now it is precedented, and so it could happen again.
It's true.
Like what would stop it from not happening? So my question is, what is the advice for businesses, small, medium, large, whatever, of things that they need to be thinking about right now, things that they need to be actively doing, maybe less than just thinking about it, of ways to avoid being in this same type of situation in the future?
Yeah. I mean, obviously this caught a lot of businesses by surprise. Some that weren't forced to shut down, their revenue dropped off a cliff anyways, so they might as well have been. But I think for the ones, I think a good lesson is everybody's talking about pivoting. That's the big buzzword, pivot. So, you have to be open-minded to think about different ways to make money. Right as this thing hit, even our president and CEO, he was like, all right, we just moved from tax season to PPP season. Yeah. So that was our pivot. We immediately went into consulting mode. Yep. For others, maybe in a restaurant, and they had to close down, right? So they would send the food trucks out. If you didn't have a food truck, then they did the takeout service. So, even more important than just thinking about different ways to do your business is having a good network. I always say, you've probably heard this, your net worth is your network, right? Yep. So the more people you talk to, I know you had we had the weekly meetings or daily afternoon meetings with people in your industry. I just think brainstorming with people in your industry is huge. Yeah.
No, it was big for us as well. So the business meeting.online is something that we launched as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak, and just the realization that, man, what in the world are we going to do? And so how can we brainstorm with other people, with like-minded people, and just kind of talk through it? Yeah. One, be a support system to say, okay, everything's going to be okay, and we're going to work through it. Right. But also, as we work through it, how do we work out of this? Yeah. And how do we prepare better on the other side? Right. So that's been majorly beneficial, and we have, I feel like, have adjusted our business model in a way that we're thinking, okay, how are we planning for the future, for diversifying our offerings to not be so tied into one of the major outcomes for us, and this may be different for other businesses, but one of the major outcomes for us is the realization early on through the process. Actually, on one of the conversations that we had in our business meeting .online daily call was classifying your customers. And understanding what your core of your customer base is, because as you said, and as a lot of people have talked about, it really depended on the industry that you were in. If you were in retail, you suffered pretty bad unless you had a good e-commerce offering. There you go. A lot of restaurants had struggles unless they could pivot to takeout. But if it was mostly a bar, they're done. Right. Breweries, done, unless they could figure out a pivot. Entertainment, hospitality, all those things just... So as a service business, if we're too closely aligned with just hospitality,
that's a good point. Yep.
We're done. Yeah. If we're too closely tied to breweries, we're done. Right. And so kind of looking at it as a broad spectrum and saying, okay, here's we actually, the recommendation was kind of take your top 100 customers, classify them, and see where that happens. Right. We went into our top 200, classified it, and said, okay, here's our pie chart. All right. Yep. Here's what our organization supports, and now let's be more intentional about creating a more equal spread around that, because it protects our team in the long term. If we're too tightly tied to one industry, when that industry gets disrupted or interrupted, then it is essentially going to be a down chain of interruption for us as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So having that concentration of products or services is pretty it's risky. So,
Just a reminder, you're listening to the Coffee Break Podcast. Also, we wanted to let you know that our team puts together a weekly blog post. You can find it at locdoc.net/blog. It's guaranteed to raise your IQ by 12 points or your money back. So it's pretty much a win-win. All right, back to the conversation.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to kind of be, I guess, to be mindful of. Or one of the things I've figured out through a lot of different conversations, and then also understanding your offerings and how they can be applicable in either a virtual sense or a, what. I think everybody's trying to pivot to that contactless process, but that's not always going to be applicable. But because it may not be. Next time something like this happens, it may not be the contactless thing. It may be something completely different. And so it's just more so understanding how you adjust, how you can pivot, and that you're not too tied to these processes that can only be done one way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, and really just the ability for remote work for us was huge. We already had the technology in place to, we're on the cloud, so we could work anywhere anyways. But, that gave us the opportunity to look at, conferencing differently, maybe even picking up clients from, we're used to doing face-to-face, regional, really just in Mecklenburg County. We don't go too far out.
Okay.
So now we got a few other clients who are a little bit further off that we don't necessarily need that like in-face model. So we've been
kind
able
of broaden that offering a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
What is your typical recommendation on building reserves in your company from a financial standpoint? Because that's another way to prepare for against something like this when your revenue stream is altered significantly.
Right.
What is something that you're recommending on that, or conversations that you've been having surrounding it?
Yeah, it's almost that's a great question. I mean, it's almost mirrors your personal finance question, right? So how much money should I have in the bank at any time? You want 3 months or 90 days worth of your general administrative expenses. So that's kind of your general answer, right? Yeah. So you want to look at the bank account, look at your trailing 12 months, take a P&L by month, and just multiply it by 3, and that's going to give your answer on how much you should keep in the bank.
That's the target that you should be working on. Anything above that is great, but that's going to give you the ability to, if you do have to pivot, you have a little bit of stability to be able to pivot off of.
Right, and even a lot of people over the past 2 years, since they were so good, always had that banking relationship, always had a line of credit, didn't necessarily need to use it, but it was always there. So, if you don't necessarily have 3 months of, capital in the bank, always have that line of credit there as well. So
very cool.
Yep.
Jonathan, I appreciate your time today. It's been a lot of valuable information. I want to kind of tie a bow on this because I want to be mindful of your time as well. If anybody is saying, hey, how, you sound like you're a genius, we want to work with you, what would be the best way to do that?
LinkedIn is great. Okay. I use that through a lot of networking now, since I can't attend any networking events. Yep. So hit me up on LinkedIn. Email's good too. So either one of those is good.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your time today. Thank you for all of the information. Hopefully it was beneficial for you. You can find out more, obviously, by searching Jonathan on LinkedIn and connecting with him there. For those of you who are watching or listening for the first time, thank you very much for spending time with us today. And we wanted to offer you more opportunities to get some of the valuable information and content from our guest. I'm just here as the host. Everybody else brings the valuable information, but we've got tons of these, nearly 100 episodes that we're closing in on over the past 2 years. And we want to extend that offering to you. You can find out more by visiting Loc-Doc.net/podcast. All of the information is listed there. You can subscribe to the audio version. You can see the videos on our Facebook and YouTube pages. It's all there for you to check out and scroll through and see all of the information, all of the content, the topics that we've discussed. So industry experts in a lot of different categories, and it's all about small business practices, strategies, and tactics. So be sure to check that out. It's all at Loc-Doc.net/podcast. And we'd ask you to subscribe so you can get the latest information and the latest episodes every Tuesday at 9 a.m. We'll see you next time right here on the Coffee Break Podcast.